glad for this opportunity to have a conversation with you. And today we are going to speak about cultural diversity, cultural differences among nations, and about working culture as well. As a German diplomat who has served in different countries, you have encountered various cultures. So what do you think about cultural differences, cultural diversity? Are they an obstacle to productive communication among nations?
First of all, it is very interesting to discover different cultures. And when you want to live abroad, it is important that you look around and you learn what the other culture is. You can let's say, easily insult somebody without even knowing it if you don't know the traditions. The first thing is you need to be curious, and you need to see, and you need to listen. If you do this, you discover new things. You get richer with every experience you make. And this adds a little bit to your own culture. You bring in elements. I think it is a question of respect. You see, I'm coming from a family, my father grew up in a part of Germany that is now Poland. My mother, also a German family, grew up in Romania. And then we lived in Germany. So I always say I have different elements in my own family culture. And in Germany, we developed this word to say a person with a migration background. So I definitely have a migration background. I always thought it makes me richer. It makes me more open, that I know that people have different ways to communicate, and therefore I don't see it as an obstacle. I see it as a chance. But it means that you are respecting the other side and that you try to find out how people are thinking in the other culture, to learn that you should not offend them, and then you get many positive experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And in my estimation, culture, like each nation is unique, and it makes them interesting and rich with culture, and it's very beautiful to understand the way of thinking of each nation, to respect them, the views of different nations, and try to be part of them sometimes to understand them better. Yeah. So going to our next question, we have already talked about differences. I would like to touch upon similarities as well. So what are the major similarities between Armenian and German cultures?
First of all, we are both Christian nations. That's, I think that's very important. So we have a lot of things in common in traditions, also in certain celebrations. Perhaps we do it a little bit different, but Armenia is a part of Europe for me. So there is a great similarity. Secondly, I think you are a very ancient nation, and you have a lot of beautiful cultural monuments, traditions. You have wonderful music, which adds to the world, I would say. So for me, this is very important, and I think Germans love music and Armenians love music. This is something, I think, which combines us. And I'm a great friend of paintings, so I love to discover what I see. And I remember when I was here the last time, really Gyumri as a place of artists was very important for me. I bought some things and I carry them with me, and they are now part of my life. So this is something where we have a common understanding. And Germans love this region of the world, I would say, with your colors, with your with your spices, with your herbs. And many Germans like to discover. So I know that even when I was here the last time, there were a lot of Germans coming via Studiosus tours, which is a little bit an educational tourism program. But they love to visit the monasteries, the churches, Garni. I think Germans like to develop relations, and something that for us, and this is also for my generation, we were all grown up in the remembrance of the World War II, of the crimes that were committed. At least me and my friends in that time, we felt responsible, not personally, but we tried really to reach out. For me, it was always the East. And here I even feel at home, I feel well. And we have a respect, and I think this was often also the beginning of projects we developed, that we try to see places where we also pay respect to the victims who suffered in World War II. I think this is still for many people a high motivation.
Thank you for your answer. And the last question, so talking about differences, culture differences, I would like to speak about working culture too. According to you, what are the main features of working culture among Armenians?
Armenians are a little bit creative, from a German perspective, yeah. So I drive everybody crazy because I always want to be on time, then I'm 5 minutes early, and I confuse everybody with this. I have very good working relations because I think there are a lot of people who really respond. They are interested. I see a high motivation also to cooperate with us. If you bring together people from, and in my environment, you see we are different nations. We already have our own cultural differences among the colleagues I'm working with, also between a Spanish person and a German person and a French person. There can be differences, but I think we see it as making us richer to work together. And for me, it is very important to create a working environment without fear. Only together you can do it really efficiently. I'm a great friend of lighter hierarchy, you see. There are people who are uncertain, who need to play always the big boss, and you can do the same thing with a little bit a human touch, and you will get the same respect. You get respect if you have experience and you know what you do, not if you shout very loud. I see here that things have very much developed. I must say I had certain experiences where I said, okay, this is an environment where I would not like to work, or I would have easily quarrels, because if somebody tells me something and I'm not convinced that this is right, I would question it. But I see how much things I have developed, and I really, as I have to do with civil society, NGOs, business partners, but also governmental structures, I see that things have developed a lot in the positive direction. So I like to work here. I have no problems. I have the impression that's even more important. The Armenians can cope with me. I always say if you put me into an environment like Japan, I will be a nightmare, because let's say this very, let's say, reduced way of acting and no emotions is for me difficult, because this is not my style. So I like this environment here, and I have the feeling that people are responding to me. So naturally you always have to respect the other traditions, but I have the feeling we understand each other, and that's very important.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that you like working environment in Armenia. And so thank you for this interesting discussion about cultural diversity. It was a pleasure.